Hello YouTube, welcome to the Loopline. This video is a little different for me because we will not be looking at Indian railways today. Instead, we will be looking at India's attempt to build a new kind of railway. Today, we shall be looking at metro systems and the evaluation of their success. Today, India has around 22 operational metro systems, with the oldest system being over 40 years old in Kolkata and the newest being Bhopal. Depending on who you talk to, the people who are into metro systems are obsessed with stats and comparing systems with each other, at least in my experience. Things like GDP, network length and ridership come up quite a lot. I think that focusing too much on stats like these is useless. These Wikipedia level statistics do not convey how it's like to actually use the system. Things like system frequency, quality of transfers and onward transport at stations are almost an afterthought, even though they are arguably more important than system-wide statistics. I also see people heavily caught up in the technology used for a system, implying that using better technology automatically leads to a better experience. I've seen many people use this justification to invalidate the achievements of the Kolkata Metro. Don't get me wrong, technology can be good. Platform screen doors, for example, are absolutely useful and should be implemented wherever possible. This is thankfully being realized by newer metro builds and being implemented everywhere. However, just because some technology is good, it doesn't mean that we should get all the tech we can. Not to burst your bubble, but there are other things that are more important than technology. For example, CBTC as a system sounds very good, but there are no metros in India that actually use it to its full potential. Most metro networks are only running 5 to 6 minute headways, which is doable with traditional line-side signals. Future-proofing is good, but there is a limit to how useful it actually is. This brings me to perhaps the biggest problem with metro systems in India. Every single metro system, as far as I am concerned, has been a failure. There are multiple ways to measure this, but one thing that people seem to be stuck on is revenue. There are tons of people pointing out that metro systems don't turn a profit. This way of looking at metro systems is so stupid, I don't even know where to begin. Let me ask you this question. Before the metro system was built, more often than not, the main transport mode there used to be a road. Just like a metro system, the road needed civil works, construction, maintenance and constant upgrades like traffic lights and addition of flyovers. Nobody cared about this road making money when it was a road. But suddenly, you pour concrete into the air and lay some tracks on it, people suddenly care about it making money. Public transport is a service, not a business. For those typing that comment on this video, I am aware that urban tollways exist. Hyderabad's outer ring road is a famous example. Even though on the surface, these tolls are repaying the ongoing maintenance cost for the road, roads need complete resurfacing every 15 to 20 years. And these projects can end up costing more than what it did to build the road in the first place. This cost also doesn't include the cost of pollution, destruction in land value, and noise generated by these roads. On the other hand, once built, a railway needs minimal maintenance, lasts for 100 years, and actively improves land value around stations. Anyway, let's go back to metro systems. The reason I can say metro systems in India have failed is not because of revenue, it's because none of them have reached their projected ridership. The best performer in India is obviously Delhi. But even Delhi hasn't reached half of its projected ridership, and systems like Indore and Bhopal are so poorly used that they are only open for 4 hours a day. You know what else is open for 4 hours a day? This thing. I trust there is someone in the audience who knows what this is. Anyway, this is not just me dunking on these systems for the sake of it. These are massive infrastructure projects that cost thousands of crores and take years to build. Someone had to pay for the machines that dug the foundation, lay the pillars, the cement used for concrete, rails, power lines, trains, substations, crews, and so much more. Who paid for all of this? The taxpayer, of course. I've seen many people question the government spending, and yet I haven't seen anyone complain about this. This brings me to an interesting case study. The Hyderabad Metro was funded 50-50 by the government and a private company, namely L&T. This was supposed to be a build-own-operate model, where the private company built and maintained the metro for a specified period of time, after which they would hand it over to the government. Unsurprisingly, if you want to turn a profit on a metro system that is not meeting ridership projections, expect high fares. And this is why Hyderabad has the second highest metro fare in India, right behind Bengaluru. I was going to make a separate video on this system and the problems with privatization, but then I found out that the Telangana State Assembly voted to buy back the entire system from L&T so they could actually expand the network without having to ask L&T for permission. The only other line in India built with this motive was the Delhi Airport Express, which faced a similar fate from Reliance and is now operated by DMRC. Anyways, let's come back to basics. A metro system is primarily useful for people traveling reasonably long distances. Since most commutes in India are 5 kilometers or less, the very idea of covering cities in metro systems is flawed. The reason why metro systems don't work for small journeys is because of what we call access time. Basically, even before you get onto a train, you need to enter the station, go up or down escalators, stairs or lifts, go through security to the platforms and then wait for a train. This process on its own takes 5 to 10 minutes, especially if you just miss a train. Since most people have access to a two-wheeler, driving that for another 5 to 10 minutes will easily make the journey faster than the metro. Most people also drive to park at the station as well, which is also counterproductive because that is the most inefficient way to get people to and from stations. When walking infrastructure is poor, expect problems like this. There is a video by Nagariyal that goes into much further detail on this. I suggest you watch that after this video. For my part, I do not like metro systems for one specific reason, and it has to do with how metros are generally built. Usually, the template for a metro system is to find a network of busy roads, pick a route along them that projects good returns, and build the metro on top of that. This approach is lazy. It is an easy template to copy and paste, but fundamentally misunderstands the use of a transit system. Metro stations should bring people to final destinations because you cannot expect someone to have a vehicle with them for last mile transport. If you do, you will be forcing thousands of people into autos. One of the few bright spots here is Mandai station in Pune. It has a network of underground passageways that brings you onto small, human-scale streets and markets. Despite places like this, most stations drop you onto the side of a 6-lane road. Exhibits include Nanganallur Road, Chennai, Sector 144, Noida, Challagatta Station in Bengaluru, LB Nagar in Hyderabad, Ramwadi Station, Pune, Kasturchand Park, Nagpur, Doordarshan Kendra, Ahmedabad, and worst of all, Gift City, Gandhinagar. These stations are so plentiful that if you take any metro station at random and open up the street view next to it, you will likely be on the side of a 6 to 8 lane road. Many people might not understand what I'm mad about. What this represents to me is that Indian cities have decided to bow down to the pressure of the personal automobile. They have decided that allowing rich people to take their private property on public infrastructure for free is more important than providing transport to the masses who actively fund the systems they use. To those who know me, this should be no surprise, but I absolutely hate cars. These 2-ton machines capable of murder are so common in our cities that the external costs of having them are being absorbed into society. I don't have a lot of patience on this topic, so I'll point you to this video here. For those who are inclined to reading, I recommend this paper from the Journal of Transport Geography. Trust me, both of these are well worth your time. So, to those asking why building metros is a problem, the problem is not necessarily with building metros. The problem is with building metro systems when obviously better alternatives already exist. The better alternative in question is a tram. It's a shame that the only city in India with trams is Kolkata, and their system is so old it's practically a rolling museum. What Indian cities need is a network of priority-based fast tram lines. This is because for 5 to 10 kilometer long journeys, a well-designed tram will actually be faster than a metro. Because trams are boarded from the street, there is no access time, and when given signal priority and dedicated lanes, these things can easily maintain an average speed of 25 to 30 kilometers per hour, which will make them more than competitive with driving. I recently saw a video by Walkable India on how the RRTS is making Delhi more walkable. There he points out that because of the RRTS, there are several new footbridges being built and dedicated walkways across the city. Though that is technically true, that completely ignores how the roads have stolen the land from Delhi's people and given it to Delhi's cars. When your house gets hijacked by goons, your solution shouldn't be to build a new house next to it. If that doesn't convey the stupidity of the situation, I don't know what does. So, by swapping out driving lanes for dedicated tram and bus lanes, we can have less concrete in the air, less pollution in the air due to car exhaust and rubber dust, easier transport for people who can't drive, such as every child and elderly person, quieter and more environmentally sustainable cities, and fewer dead people on the road. Win-win. Well, I guess someone loses. Retards need a place to do their stunts, right? Big loss. Hopefully, I've made enough constructive arguments as to why most metro construction happens more to make sure that drivers are not inconvenienced and less to actually improve transport. Whether intentional or not, that has been the predominant outcome. Pretty much all Indian cities can be served by trams for short to medium distance journeys, mostly 5 to 10 kilometers in length. Once you go beyond that, most cities already have some level of underutilized railway infrastructure that can be repurposed for suburban service. An at-grade train station is significantly more accessible than any kind of metro station because all it needs are a few ramps. Case in point, Japan. I've seen many arguments against this kind of infrastructure pointing to concerns about people misusing it. Though this is technically true, that is a completely different problem. Using civic sense to justify infrastructure spending is like using your sleeping habits to justify changing jobs. These are separate problems that both need fixing, and I do not mean to discount one of them by classifying it differently. For those interested, there is another video on this topic by Satirical Citizen. I don't really want to talk about this now, but I feel extremely similar about the Delhi RRTS. Everyone wants this fast and shiny new thing, but clinging to packaged solutions that depend on multinationals for solving our transport needs is not advisable. Replacing your old TV for a new one is one thing, but abandoning 100-year-old infrastructure is totally different. This attitude of replace, not repair is very dangerous in the long term. If Indian Railways' urban infrastructure is being left behind like this, what is to say that the same thing won't happen with metro systems 30 years down the line? Suddenly, all the concrete poured into the air becomes obsolete. I know we live in the era where people forget and move on to the next thing in the span of 15 seconds, but extending it to public, long-term infrastructure just speaks to a refusal to actually think about the people using the system instead of just looking at maps. Don't get me wrong, maps are incredibly useful, but you can't, in good conscience, tell me that I should be using a station that progressively destroys my hearing and my lungs instead of one where I could fall asleep on a bench surrounded by trees. Even if the trains themselves are slower, less frequent and more crowded, there is something to be said about the quality of one's travel. What I want is that experience to improve. Better and more frequent trains along with easier access and good onward connections will do so much more for so much less. I also wish that people stopped evangelizing new technology and just new things in general. People take the stuff they already have for granted and the potential it carries often goes unnoticed. When it comes to transport, technology doesn't matter. The travel experience does. Technology is a tool, not the destination, and I wish that more people understood the difference. Thank you for listening to me talk about the trains we shouldn't be building in our cities. If you have any thoughts, I suggest you leave them in the comments. That's it from me today. Thank you for watching and I shall see you in the next loop line.
यात्रीगण कृपया ध्यान दें, गाड़ी संख्या 1101 कारेकाल वीकली एक्सप्रेस लोकमान्य तिलक टर्मिनस से कारेकाल तक जाने वाली जो 10:13 पर आती है, अब 0:50 विलंब से चल रही है, जिससे यहाँ 11:03 पर प्लेटफॉर्म क्रमांक 1 पर आने की संभावना है। यात्रियों को हुई असुविधा के लिए खेद है।